Hey, well, it is Huck. And I'm going to try to keep this somewhat brief, but I haven't posted a video in a while. And one of the reasons I haven't posted anything is my health has kind of taken a downturn here in recent weeks. And as you can tell, I'm wearing my oxygen today. I don't know whether I'm on the mend or not, to be honest with you. So there is some, concern that maybe I'm having a significant, downgrading of my overall condition. As you probably know, if you've been following my channel at all, I have what they call 4th stage COPD, and it's pretty bad, and bad enough that they have referred me to the lung transplant center at University Hospitals in Cleveland, and I have been undergoing a series of tests and evaluations, and they've done a lot of things so far. And the couple of things that they have yet to do, and that I've actually had them reschedule now several times, is a heart catheter, which I was supposed to undergo now, I think the third time it was scheduled. And again, ended up canceling it. And at any rate, the reason why it was canceled this time was twofold. One, as I said, my health has not been as good as it normally has. I've had some really good success through 2021 as far as, not seeing any particular, flare-ups of my condition, exacerbations, I think they call them. But as soon as the weather turned cold, right about Halloween, I started getting like a little chest infection or chest congestion or whatever, and it was severely affecting me. And then about a little over a week ago, I saw a real significant event happen, and that was that started affecting my heart rate. Suddenly, every time I would get up and move, my heart rate would race, and I mean, well over 100, 112, 115 even. And this was just, getting up and walking to get myself a glass of water. And then I would sit back down and it wouldn't go back down to like normal. For me, normal was like in the 70s, when I'm sitting or resting or whatever. And now I was having trouble getting it down, under like 85 or 90. And, and I had been treating myself with like, I had tried everything when this congestion flared up. I was taking elevated doses of prednisone and tapering down, and I tried that not once, not twice, but 3 times. I took a regimen of, I think it was doxycycline, form of antibiotic. And while I felt a little better when I was taking some of the prednisone, once I'd get down to, like close to my normal daily maintenance level of 5 or 10 milligrams a day, I suddenly wasn't feeling so great. And I was starting to get, real tightness in my chest. It was clearly not getting better, it was getting worse. Until finally, like I say, my heart rate started going up. I ended up, going to see my heart doctor locally here. And, he didn't give me a real good prognosis. He said it was probably related to my heart, or my heart condition was probably related to my lungs, and that I was, my heart was working harder, to feed my body oxygen. And So he did take some x-rays and some blood tests and said that it's not, results indicated that it's not heart failure. But it could be blockage. It could be, like he said. At any rate, this is a possible, further deterioration of my condition. One that not very promising. However, my doctors put me on some more prednisone. So I'm taking like 30 milligrams a day right now. And my heart doctor didn't want to give me more of the heart medication I'm taking, which is called metoprolol. And metoprolol, I take like a 25 milligram tablet, but I split it in two. Take half of it in the morning, half of it at night. And what I'm finding is that when I take that, within, 20 minutes, a half hour or so, it does have a positive effect on keeping my heart rate closer to normal. But it doesn't last until I take the second, half of the pill. So, in other words, it works for about 4, maybe 5 hours to keep my heart rate, somewhat stabilized. So I don't get these gaudy numbers over 100. And when I'm at rest, it goes, the high 70s or low 80s. But by, 4 hours, 5 hours later, then we start climbing again. And the thing is, I'm noticing now that I had my worst day about 2 or 3 days ago. And I was really bad. I was starting to get really worried. But I'm the last 2 days have been much better. I'm not back to where I was by any means, but I'm not quite as bad as I was either. And I'm finding I'm doing a little bit more. I'm able to do a little bit more. Things are further complicated by the fact that we're having, like much of the country, some really cold weather right now. This is not good for my condition. In fact, as we speak, and this is Saturday night, it's about 9 o'clock, going on 9 o'clock? Going on 10 o'clock. Tomorrow, Sunday, here in Northeast Ohio, we are expecting a major snowstorm. I think it's called Izzy or something like that. That's been making its way across the country. And anyway, it's supposed to hit us here in Northeast Ohio tomorrow, probably around, early evening. And they're saying that over the course of about 24 hours, mostly in the overnight and early Monday morning, we're going to get hit with a minimum of 6 to 9 inches of snow, and maybe as much as 11 or 12 inches of snow. Now, this kind of makes my life miserable. First of all, that much snow isn't going to go away anytime soon, so for the foreseeable future, there's going to be like piles of snow everywhere. For me, personally, I can't go anywhere if my driveway's not shoveled, or plowed with that much snow on it. I can, 3 or 4 inches of snow I can probably try to drive through. But in my condition, I'm not able to walk very far at all. Trying to even walk up my driveway would probably be a real issue right now. One that I probably don't want to do in sub-freezing temperatures, with a lot of snow on the ground. So I have contacted somebody who has promised that Monday morning, or Monday around noon or before, they're going to come out and they're going to shovel my driveway for me if it requires it, and clean off the snow off of my car, which is the other issue because, it takes me, when I'm feeling up to it, I can go out and clean off my car, but it takes me many, many trips to do it. So I'll go out there for like a minute, whatever I can get done in like 30 seconds or a minute, and I come back in, and I wait about 5 minutes, I go back out and do a little bit more, And it can take me, an hour to clean off my car doing that. I'm not even going to attempt it this time with what I'm going through right now. Last thing I need is a relapse, or to make this any worse than it is. So the other significant event that's happened here is my good friend Dustin. Dustin, I am way too dependent on, I must admit. He is he's the one person that I've remained in contact with through this whole pandemic. One person that we were in the same room together and go places together. Every trip I've made to Cleveland, he's accompanied me. He's the only person who that I really trust to be with, not contract COVID. And anyway, he had some very sad news. His mom was taken to emergency a few weeks ago with a problem. It turned out that they kind of probably misdiagnosed it. They ended up thinking there was a bowel obstruction of some sort, and they removed a section of her bowel. Turns out that the problem was probably a blockage or a blood clot in an artery or vein, an artery feeding the bowel. And her bowel wasn't getting any blood and oxygen. And they ended up going back in and doing a second surgery. And then they transferred her from Warren General Hospital, I think, St. Joseph's Hospital, I think, in Warren, to Mercy St. Elizabeth Hospital in Youngstown. And it was last Friday, a week ago, that she tragically passed away. Dustin lives at home with his mom and dad, his stepdad, and I didn't see this coming. I mean, I knew that it was serious, but I trusted these doctors to find out what the issue was, and at any rate, needless to say, everyone here is completely devastated by this situation, and Dustin in particular. And I won't go through the horrible details, the awful way that Dustin was kind of what he had to go through during those last hours or whatever. But at any rate, Dustin, of course, was scheduled to come with me the following week to go up to University Hospital. So I ended up canceling that. And now I'm told that they are going to reschedule it. But I'm also told that this time I had better go through with it, or I'm out of the, transplant program, because I've canceled, this so many times. So I know there's a few other things they've got scheduled. For instance, when they scheduled that, I'm going to do an echo test and a electrocardiogram, EKG and stuff the same day. I'll have to go back up there again, I think in February for a colonoscopy. They've got me scheduled for endoscopy in March, and probably sometime much sooner than all of that, but sometime they're going to schedule me for another, what they call a walking test, where, I guess the minimum is you got to walk at least 300 feet. It's like a 6-minute walking test. And I know the last time I did it up there, I probably did 800 or 900 feet. The most I could muster the last time I went to pulmonary rehab was probably maybe 600 feet. And if I had to walk without stopping right now, probably be lucky to do 200 feet. I think I could probably manage 300 feet in 6 minutes, though, if I'm allowed to stop catch my breath. Maybe. So those are things I'm going to be working on each day here at home. I'm going to try to do some exercises, even though I'm clearly still recovering from whatever it is I'm going through. I've got some of the things that I was doing pulmonary rehab with, is some of the same types of equipment or whatever, more or less. So I can kind of mimic what I was doing at pulmonary rehab to a certain extent. But I figure if I even walk 100 feet and sit down and get up a few minutes later and walk another 100 feet and sit down until I can get 600 feet in or 300 feet in or whatever it is. And I do the same thing tomorrow, and I do the same thing the next day. It's kind of like, whenever you start an exercise program, maybe you can only do, 5, maybe you can only, do 5 push-ups or 5 sit-ups right now. But if you do 5 every day, it's the same thing when you're working with weights. You might only be able to lift 60 pounds, bench pressing, but, if you do that every day, you're going to end up doing, maybe you can only do, 60 pounds, 5 times. Within a week, maybe you can do 7 or 8. By next week, maybe you can do 10. Within a month, you're doing, 80 pounds and you're doing 2 sets of 15. I don't know. So I'm saying that if I start now, the more I walk every day, the more I'm going to build up my endurance, so that by the time hopefully I go up there and I have to do this, I can get in there minimum of 300 feet, maybe even much better. But we're gonna work at it. At any rate, so that's what's going on right now. I wanted to let you know that I have been just the last 24 hours. I've been posting a lot of video on my other channel. And that was really my original channel that I'd started really months before I ever started this channel. This channel, Huck at Home, was kind of designed to be a political or a vlog channel. The other channel was always kind of a entertainment channel. It was mostly like comedy videos for the most part, some music videos. And then, toward the end of my involvement on that channel, I was starting to do, the kind of videos that I do mostly on this channel now, until I decided to do those exclusively on this channel. So anyway, beginning last night, I started uploading a series of theater productions that I either performed in some years ago or that I directed. So, for instance, some of the productions that are on there are Hello, Dolly, which I performed at Kent State University Trumbull campus. They have a summer stock program, and I have been in several of their shows in summer stock over several seasons. Back in 1988, I was Cornelius Hackle in Hello, Dolly. So there's some videos of that. There's one of the performances, and then there's a couple of separate videos from that show, showing little clips of some of the rehearsals. Anyway, so that's one. There was another show that I did a few years later, I think 1990, was a production of Fiddler on the Roof. And I ended up kind of assisting the director, Jack Brizzi, with that production. But I had a role in that production as well. I was model Camsoil, the tailor. So there's a couple of musical numbers that I'm involved in that. And the interesting thing about my role in that show was there was a young lady who was also cast in that show, a friend of mine. Her name is Samantha Pendleton. And her uncle, Austin Pendleton, is a famous actor and director. He, in fact, was the original Mottle Camsoil, the tailor, in the original Broadway production of Fiddler on the Roof. He originated the role on Broadway. He's gone on to do numerous films, numerous TV shows. I know he had a recurring role in one of my favorite TV shows some years ago called St. Elsewhere. He was a director of a very nice professional theater in Virginia for a number of years. At any rate, Austin Pendleton came to Kent Trumbull to see one of the performances of our production of Fiddler on the Roof, ostensibly, to see his niece, who, was also in that show. She played Hoddle, one of Tevye's daughters. And at any rate, so it was intimidating, to say the least, to be performing, this role that this gentleman had done on Broadway, and not only had done on Broadway, but was the original Mottle the Tailor. And he was very kind when I met him, but like I say, it was not an experience that I would wish on anybody. At any rate, so those are two of the shows that I did. I also appeared as Atticus Finch in a production of To Kill a Mockingbird. This was done, I think, in 1993, if I'm not mistaken, at Ashtabula Art Center in Ashtabula County, Ohio. And only time I ever was in a production there. And interestingly enough, I didn't intend to be in that production. I didn't intend to audition for that production. But I had met a young boy who I was working as a reporter at the time, and up in Ashtabula County for a newspaper up in Jefferson, Ohio. And I had heard about a boy who was on the radio. He was every morning before school, he would call into his favorite disc jockey on some AM radio station. And he had this bit every morning where he would call up this disc jockey who was on the air, and he would tell a joke, and they had this little, repertoire between the two of them, this jockey and this boy whose name was Tim. And so he kind of got the name, they kind of nicknamed him Timmy the Joke-Telling Kid. So I thought it was an interesting story, and I thought it would make a good, interesting article. So I, called the radio station and found out who the boy was, and I ended up doing an interview with him and wrote a piece for the newspaper. And in the course of doing that, I had learned a little bit that Timmy had an interest in performing, and I suggested that maybe he should maybe look into the local community theater, which he didn't live that far away from, and see if there were anything, and now they didn't have a youth theater program there, but as it turned out, they were getting ready to audition for To Kill a Mockingbird, which had, three really prominent children's roles. One, which, in my opinion, he would have been ideal for. Those of you that are familiar with To Kill a Mockingbird, The three roles are Atticus Finch, the town attorney, has two children of his own, Jem and Scout. Scout, the story, at least the book version of the story, is really told from Scout's 9-year-old point of view. The play isn't narrated, however, by Scout, although she plays a prominent role in the play. But the other child is kind of kind of a city boy that moves out to the country to stay with his relatives or something for the summer, and his name is Dill, and he's a little goofy, he's a little awkward, he doesn't quite fit in, but he's pretty smart, and at any rate, as I looked at this young boy, Timmy, I saw him as the perfect Dill. And so I accompanied him to the Asheville Arts Center and met the director there, who was, the director of the theater, and he lent us a couple of he had little books of the script, and so we took those home, and I think on one or two occasions I went back to Timmy's house and I rehearsed some lines with him, of him playing Timmy and me playing one of the other boys or whatever, to help him with his audition. And then when the day came for the audition, I accompanied him to the audition. But Timmy was too shy to go up and do this because there was a room full of strange people. And so to encourage him to audition, to break the ice, so to speak, I volunteered to go up and do a little bit of reading, thinking that would help him along to do the same. And it did work. And the good news was that Timmy did get cast. And he did get cast in the role of Dill. And he was very good in the role. What I didn't expect was that the director ended up casting me, as Atticus Finch. And, and I had to pull some strings at work in order to allow them to allow me to do the role, because, rehearsal is a grueling process. It could take, I don't remember what that particular show took, 6 to 8 weeks is normal evening rehearsals. And then, of course, I think there were like 6 or 8 performances, if I'm not mistaken, over, 2 weekends, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something like that. And of course, I was the county reporter, so I had a number of beats that I had to cover, and those included some evening meetings that I had to attend. And so obviously I needed somebody to fill in for me, which isn't easy to do on a weekly newspaper, because you don't have a lot of people. There aren't extra reporters. So anyway, the newspaper allowed me to do it, and what I did is I did a series of, I think, 7 articles, if I'm not mistaken, about the process of a community theater, of being in a community theater production. So I did an article about, auditioning. I did an article about set design and lighting design. I did an article about, blocking rehearsals, where they teach you where to move to and where to stand and how to address the audience and how to address other characters on stage, and how your body position and all that works, and the science behind it. At any rate, I did a story about the actual performance, and what goes through an actor's mind as they're performing, in front of a live audience. So I did all these series of articles, which were, I must say, well received. I probably got more correspondence, more letters or whatever about those articles than probably anything else I'd ever written for that newspaper. But at any rate, so that production is up there. And a couple of the youth theater productions that I directed as a youth theater director at the Youngstown Playhouse. I think I put up the Pied Piper of Hamelin. I know I'm going to try to find a copy of Jack of the Beanstalk, which is a musical, which holds the box office records for the Youngstown Playhouse. I think we had 30 sold-out school performances. And that theater seats like well over 1,000 people, 1,200 people. We sold out 30 shows. So, you know, that's still a record there as far as I know. At any rate, so there's a few more shows I'd like to find, and I might need to still convert to digital because I think they're on videotape. If I have time to do it, I think I was in a production of The Music Man at the Youngstown Playhouse that I kind of got involved in. I had a small role in 1776 at the Youngstown Playhouse, and small role in what was it? Well, I had actually a moderate-sized role. Played Smee the Pirate in Peter Pan. All three of these main stage productions of the Youngstown Playhouse I performed while I was youth theater director there. This would have been like 96, 97, 1996, 97, something like that. And I think there was a youth theater production. A friend of mine, a dear friend of mine who's gone now, Jack Brizzy. Again, he was the professor of theater out at Kent State Trumbull. He and I co-founded a youth theater program of our own for a year, where we took youth theater productions and toured them in schools. So we, you know, went to Boardman, Warren, Youngstown, Hubbard, different schools, mostly. Well, anyway, so we did a couple of productions. We did The Prince and the Pauper, I think, is one that I've uploaded to YouTube. So anyway, that's what's been going on here. As you can tell, I am starting to feel a little bit better. So, you know, hopefully I've got an appointment Thursday next week with my pulmonary doctor. And I'm hoping by then, you know, to get some final answers on, you know, just exactly what my prognosis is here. So hopefully I'll be able to